The breaking point. The crystalline screens above Unity Plaza shimmered to life, forcing every human on Earth to witness what would become known as the Meridian Broadcast. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the underground command center of the Australian Resistance, her weathered hands gripping the steel railing as the Galactic Council's transmission began. The Council's supreme arbiter, a towering figure with iridescent scales and compound eyes, appeared before the cameras. Behind him stood 12 young humans, Earth's brightest students who had been selected as ambassadors to demonstrate humanity's potential for peaceful integration into the galactic community. They had been missing for weeks. Now Chen understood why. "Your species continues to resist proper integration," the Arbiter's translated voice boomed across every screen and device on Earth. "You cling to primitive notions of independence, refusing to accept your rightful place in our hierarchy. Today, we demonstrate the cost of such defiance." Chen's knuckles whitened against the railing as the first student was brought forward. Maya Zhang, age 16, who had developed a revolutionary algorithm for sustainable fusion energy. The girl's eyes remained defiant even as the Arbiter's guards positioned her before the cameras. "Stop the feed," Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "We can't, Commander," Lieutenant Paddle responded, his fingers flying across the holographic interface. "They'd locked out our systems. Everyone has to watch." The execution was clinical, efficient. One by one, Earth's brightest young minds were sacrificed before the galaxy. The Arbiter's message was clear: submit or suffer. But as Chen watched, she noticed something the Council had missed. In the final moments before each execution, the student's eyes changed, not with fear, but with something else, something primal. When the broadcast ended, Chen moved swiftly to the secure communications terminal. "Get me Director Yamamoto at Project Eclipse." Authorization, Chen, Alpha 79. The screen flickered, revealing an aging Japanese woman surrounded by holographic displays. "I saw it," Yamamoto said before Chen could speak. "The genetic markers activated in all of them, didn't they?" "Just like we theorized," Chen confirmed. "The Council's presence isn't just triggering random mutations in our population. There's a pattern. Our junk DNA is responding to their proximity, awakening something our ancestors buried millennia ago." Yamamoto nodded, her expression grim. "Project Eclipse's subjects have been showing unprecedented development since we began exposing them to captured Council technology. The genetic alterations are stable now. They're ready." "How many?" 500, spread across 3 facilities, each one carrying the activated genes that the Council just proved exist in our general population. "These aren't just soldiers, Sarah. They're the next step in human evolution." Chen closed her eyes, remembering Maya's final moments, the way her iris had split into geometric patterns before the end. "The Council thinks they just showed the galaxy humanity's weakness. Instead, they've given us permission to unleash what we've become. The kill switches are still in place," Yamamoto warned. "Once we activate them, there's no going back. The changes will be irreversible, and they'll spread. Within 3 generations, all of humanity could carry these traits." Chen's response was interrupted by new alarms. Council ships were entering the atmosphere, the first wave of what would undoubtedly be an occupation force. They expected to find a broken, submissive population. Instead, they would face humanity's awakening. "Execute Project Eclipse," Chen ordered. "All facilities, full activation. And Director, make sure they understand their first targets." Across 3 hidden facilities, 500 soldiers opened eyes that now held the same geometric patterns seen in the executed students. But these warriors had been prepared, trained, enhanced. Their DNA, awakened by alien proximity and stabilized by Project Eclipse, had transformed them into something that even the Council's extensive genetic archives had never documented. The occupation of Earth was about to become the greatest miscalculation in Galactic Council history. The Shadow Protocol. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Captain Marcus Rivera watched as his squad underwent their final transformation. The activation of Project Eclipse had triggered cascading genetic changes throughout their bodies, and the process was both beautiful and terrifying. Their eyes now gleamed with fractal patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid crystal, while their skin had developed subtle, iridescent patterns visible only under certain light. Neural enhancement complete, Dr. Elena Santos announced, monitoring the bank of quantum computers tracking each soldier's metamorphosis. Synaptic plasticity is off the charts. They're processing information at rates we've never seen in human subjects. Rivera flexed his fingers, watching as microscopic scales rippled beneath his skin, an organic armor that had developed in response to the activated genes. How long until the Council realizes what's happening? They already suspect something. Commander Chen's voice came through the facility's secure channel. Their dropships are landing in major cities, but they're being cautious. Too cautious for an army that thinks it's occupying a broken species. The first engagement occurred in Singapore. A Council extraction team had attempted to secure a quantum research facility, expecting minimal resistance. Instead, they encountered Squad Alpha, led by Lieutenant Aisha Khan. The helmet cam footage from the battle was now playing on screens throughout the Project Eclipse facility. Khan's enhanced soldiers moved like liquid shadow, their newly awakened abilities allowing them to perceive and react to events faster than human consciousness traditionally allowed. The Council's troops, despite their advanced technology, found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. "This is impossible," one of the alien commanders was heard saying in the footage. Their genetic profile was primitive hours ago. How are they? The transmission cut off as Khan's team breached their position. But it wasn't just the physical enhancements that made Project Eclipse's soldiers lethal. The activated genes had awakened something else, a deep, instinctive understanding of spatial dynamics and energy manipulation. They could sense the electromagnetic fields generated by Council technology, could intuitively grasp the weak points in their defense systems. "We're getting similar reports from Moscow and Cape Town," Chen updated them. "The Council's forces are retreating to their ships. They're calling for reinforcements, but they're also demanding answers. Our ambassador's executions were broadcast across the galaxy. They thought they were showing our weakness, but instead, they revealed our potential," Rivera finished. Every human watching that broadcast saw what happened to those students in their final moments. "The changes are spreading faster than we anticipated." Dr. Santos pulled up new data streams, her enhanced eyes rapidly processing the information. "The genetic awakening is occurring in approximately 3% of the global population now, mostly in younger individuals, but some adults are showing signs. The Council didn't just trigger our hidden potential. They created a cascade effect." A new alert flashed across their screens. The Council's reinforcement fleet had arrived in orbit, but they weren't launching an immediate attack. Instead, a transmission was being broadcast to all Earth frequencies. The Supreme Arbiter's image appeared, but this time his usual confidence was replaced by something closer to concern. "What are you?" he demanded. "Your species' genetic profile was fully mapped centuries ago. This level of adaptation is not possible." Commander Chen took control of the transmission, her own eyes now showing the geometric patterns that marked humanity's awakening. "You should have studied Earth's history more carefully," she replied. "Every time our species has faced extinction, we've evolved. Every crisis has made us stronger. You didn't find all of humanity's genetic secrets because they were dormant, waiting for the right trigger." The executions, the Arbiter realized. The stress response activated what we've always been capable of becoming. Chen finished. "You wanted to show the galaxy humanity's weakness. Instead, you've helped us remember our strength." Rivera turned to his squad, 20 soldiers whose bodies and minds now represented humanity's next evolutionary step. Similar teams were preparing in facilities across the globe, ready to defend their species and demonstrate that humanity's potential had been vastly underestimated. "The Council thinks they understand adaptation," Rivera addressed his team. They think they understand survival, but they've spent too long relying on technology, on genetic engineering, on controlled evolution. We're about to show them what real adaptation looks like. The Shadow Protocol was officially in effect. Humanity wasn't just fighting back. They were transforming into something new, something that even the vast archives of the Galactic Council had never documented. The question was no longer whether Earth would survive, but what humanity would become in the process of ensuring its survival. Counterattack. The orbital defense grid above New Delhi sparked with energy as another Council warship attempted to breach Earth's atmosphere. 3 weeks had passed since humanity's genetic awakening, and the planet's transformation was accelerating beyond anyone's predictions. Dr. Santos stood in the monitoring center, her enhanced vision tracking the battle with pristine clarity. Their tactics aren't adapting, she observed, speaking to Commander Chen through their newly developed neural network. They're still fighting as if we're the same species they encountered a month ago. The Council's latest offensive had begun 12 hours earlier, with simultaneous strikes against major population centers. What they hadn't anticipated was humanity's rapidly evolving collective defense system. The genetic changes hadn't just enhanced individual humans, they had awakened an ancient capacity for synchronized action that bordered on telepathic. Lieutenant Khan's voice cut through the neural network. "We've confirmed what the captured data suggested, Commander. The Council's species database shows no record of our original form. Whatever we were before they found us, they've never seen it." In orbit, the Council warship's shields flickered against a barrage of energy pulses. The weapons weren't technological. They were being generated by groups of enhanced humans working in concert, channeling and focusing electromagnetic fields in ways that shouldn't have been possible. The ship's hull began to crack under the assault. "They're retreating," Rivera reported from his position in Seoul. "All sectors showing the same pattern. The Council's forces are pulling back to their staging areas in the Kuiper Belt." But victory wasn't their only concern. The genetic changes were spreading faster than Project Eclipse had projected, and not everyone was handling the transformation well. Reports were coming in from around the globe of individuals struggling to control their new abilities, of children whose enhanced perceptions overwhelmed their developing minds. "We need to understand what we're becoming," Dr. Santos insisted during an emergency meeting of Project Eclipse's leadership. "The Council's attack didn't just wake up dormant genes, it's forcing us to remember something. Something our species deliberately forgot." The evidence was mounting. Archaeological sites around the world were yielding new secrets as enhanced researchers began to perceive patterns that had always been present but never before visible. Ancient structures revealed energy signatures that matched those now emanating from transformed humans. The history of Earth's civilizations was being rewritten with each new discovery. Commander Chen stood before the United Earth Council, her transformed appearance a stark reminder of humanity's rapid evolution. "We're not just fighting for survival anymore," she declared. "We're fighting to reclaim our heritage." The Council didn't choose Earth randomly for their expansion. They came here because they sensed something, an echo of what we used to be. The captured Council databases were finally yielding their secrets. Buried in the oldest records were references to a species that had vanished from the galaxy millions of years ago, a race that could manipulate the fundamental forces of nature through biological means rather than technology. The descriptions matched the abilities now manifesting in Earth's population with shocking accuracy. "They called them the Shapers," Dr. Santos explained, projecting ancient star charts. "A species so advanced that the line between biology and physics became meaningless. They disappeared at the height of their civilization, leaving behind only myths and warnings. We're their descendants, Commander. We didn't evolve these abilities. We're remembering them." The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just been fighting for its place among the stars. They had been fighting to reclaim their birthright as one of the galaxy's elder races. The Council's attempt to subjugate Earth had inadvertently awakened a sleeping giant. In orbit, the retreating Council ships transmitted a final message. "By the authority of the Galactic Council, Earth is hereby designated a Class X quarantine zone. All species are forbidden from approaching this system under penalty of immediate execution. But it was too late for quarantine. Humanity's transformation couldn't be contained, and their awakening was sending ripples through the galaxy. Other species that had been subjugated by the Council were beginning to show signs of similar genetic activation. The Council hadn't just failed to conquer Earth, they had initiated a chain reaction that threatened their entire power structure. "Send a message to the Council," Chen ordered, her eyes blazing with geometric fire. "Tell them we remember what they tried to make us forget. Tell them the Shapers have returned." The counterattack was about to begin, but it wouldn't be fought with ships and weapons. Humanity was about to remind the galaxy why their ancestors had been both revered and feared, why the Council had tried so hard to keep them dormant. The age of forgetting was over. The heart of the storm. The Galactic Council's capital world of Nexus Prime blazed with emergency lights as riots broke out across its metropolitan sectors. Delegate species from 1,000 worlds had gathered to demand answers about the situation on Earth and about their own suppressed genetic potential. In the midst of the chaos, Commander Chen and her strike team moved unseen, their evolved abilities allowing them to slip through the planet's most sophisticated security systems. Security forces are responding to disturbances in all major districts, Lieutenant Khan reported through their neural link. The Council's control is fracturing. Species that have been under their dominion for millennia are beginning to question everything. The team's target was the Archive of Species, a vast repository of genetic data and historical records that the Council had used to maintain their power for countless generations. Dr. Santos had discovered that the facility contained something even more valuable: the original protocols used to suppress humanity's Shaper abilities. "Motion sensors ahead," Rivera warned, his enhanced senses detecting the invisible web of security measures. "They've upgraded their systems. They're actually learning." Chen smiled, her geometric eyes analyzing the complex pattern of detection fields. With a thought, she reached out to the electromagnetic spectrum itself, bending light and energy around her team. "They're learning," she agreed, "but we're remembering." The transformation of Earth's population had reached a critical phase. 70% of humans now showed some degree of genetic activation, and with each passing day, their collective understanding of their ancestral abilities grew stronger. The Council's worst nightmare was becoming reality. Humanity wasn't just reclaiming their Shaper heritage. They were surpassing it. Inside the archive, the team encountered unexpected resistance. The Council had deployed bioengineered guardians, creatures specifically designed to counter Shaper abilities. But even these proved insufficient against humans who were actively evolving during combat, adapting to each new threat in real time. "They're afraid," Dr. Santos observed through the neural network as she coordinated from Earth. The Council built their entire civilization on controlling and limiting the evolution of other species. "We're not just a threat to their power, we're a threat to their understanding of reality itself." The Archive's central chamber was a crystalline structure that pulsed with stored data, the accumulated knowledge of countless civilizations. As Chen interfaced with the system, the true scope of the Council's deception became clear. They hadn't just suppressed humanity's potential. They had systematically done the same to every species they encountered, afraid of what unrestricted evolution might produce. "Upload complete," Chen announced, transmitting the archive's contents through their quantum-entangled network to Earth. "Dr. Santos, are you seeing this? The suppression protocols weren't just used on us. The Council has been manipulating the genetic development of every known species for millions of years. But the data revealed something else, something that even the Council hadn't fully understood. The suppressions hadn't been entirely successful. Instead of eliminating advanced abilities, they had merely forced them into dormancy, creating a reservoir of evolutionary potential that had been building pressure for millennia. They didn't just wake us up, Dr. Santos realized, her voice filled with awe as she processed the data. They cracked the dam. The changes we're seeing aren't just affecting humans. They're affecting every species that the Council tried to limit. We're all starting to remember. The implications hit Chen like a physical force. Earth's transformation wasn't an isolated incident. It was the first tremor of a galactic awakening. The Council hadn't just failed to contain humanity. They had initiated the very thing they had spent millions of years trying to prevent. Across Nexus Prime, the riots were intensifying. Species that had been docile servants of the Council for generations were suddenly manifesting abilities that should have been impossible. The careful genetic hierarchies that had maintained the Council's power were collapsing in real time. Commander Rivera called out, his enhanced senses detecting massive energy buildups throughout the city. Something's happening. The other species, they're not just rioting. They're changing. Through their neural link, Chen could feel it too. The awakening that had started on Earth was spreading like a wildfire through the suppressed species of the galaxy. Each newly activated individual became a catalyst, triggering changes in those around them. The Council's greatest weapons, control, suppression, and limitation, were being turned against them. The Council didn't understand what they were dealing with. Dr. Santos explained as she analyzed the archive's data. Evolution isn't just a biological process. It's a fundamental force of the universe, as essential as gravity or electromagnetism. They tried to contain it, to control it, but all they did was create the perfect conditions for an explosive reaction. As the team made their way back through the chaos of the capital, Chen realized that their mission had evolved far beyond Earth's survival. They weren't just fighting for humanity's freedom. They had become the spark that would reshape the galaxy itself. The age of suppression was ending, and something new, something unprecedented, was about to begin. Dawn of a new era. The Council Chamber, a vast amphitheater that had stood as the seat of galactic power for millennia, now trembled with unleashed potential. The Supreme Arbiter stood before the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds, his composure cracking as reports of widespread genetic awakening flooded in from every corner of the galaxy. Commander Chen walked into the chamber unannounced, her presence impossible to ignore. The geometric patterns in her eyes now spiraled with complex fractals that seemed to peer into multiple dimensions at once. Behind her, Dr. Santos and the strike team moved with fluid grace, their evolved forms making even the most advanced Council technology seem primitive by comparison. "You don't understand what you've done," the Arbiter declared, his voice carrying notes of both fear and awe. "The protocols were put in place for a reason. The galaxy cannot survive unrestricted evolution. The protocols were put in place out of fear," Chen responded, her voice resonating on multiple frequencies that every species present could understand simultaneously. Fear of change, fear of growth, fear of what conscious beings might become if allowed to reach their full potential. Through their enhanced senses, the Earth team could see the changes rippling through the gathered representatives. Species that had been carefully engineered to remain docile were awakening to their suppressed abilities. Creatures designed for subservience were remembering that they had once been more. Dr. Santos interfaced with the chamber's ancient systems, projecting the truth they had discovered in the archive. "The Shapers didn't disappear," she announced. "They didn't go extinct or abandon the galaxy. They became us, all of us. Every sentient species in this chamber is descended from them, each specialized and suppressed to serve the Council's vision of order." The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. The Council hadn't just controlled evolution. They had systematically dismantled the legacy of an entire civilization, breaking it into manageable pieces and burying the truth beneath layers of genetic locks and cultural manipulation. "Your ancestors," Shen continued, addressing the Arbiter directly, "were the ones who feared the Shapers most. So they created the Council, designed the protocols, and appointed themselves the guardians of limitation. But you forgot one crucial truth. Evolution cannot be permanently suppressed. It can only be delayed." The chamber's security systems activated, bioengineered guardians emerging from hidden chambers. But they faced a galaxy that was rapidly remembering what it used to be. Representatives from worlds that had been enemies for generations found themselves instinctively working together, their awakening abilities complementing each other in ways the Council had spent millennia trying to prevent. "This is chaos," the Arbiter protested as his forces were easily contained. "Without the protocols, without control, civilization itself will collapse." "No," Rivera countered, stepping forward. "This is adaptation. This is growth. This is what conscious beings do. We change, we evolve, we become more than what we were. The only chaos here is the kind that comes with any birth." Through their neural network, the Earth team could sense similar scenes playing out across the galaxy. The suppression protocols were failing everywhere, not because they were being destroyed, but because they were no longer necessary. The conscious beings of the galaxy were remembering not just their abilities, but their common heritage. "The Council's time is over," Chen declared, her words carrying the weight of inevitable change. "But this isn't about revenge or punishment. This is about remembering who we all were and deciding together what we will become." The Arbiter, seeing the transformation spreading through his own guards, finally understood. "The Shapers," he whispered. "They didn't leave us instructions about containing evolution because they knew this day would come. They wanted us to remember." Dr. Santos nodded, her enhanced mind already processing the possibilities of a galaxy awakening to its full potential. They seeded themselves throughout the cosmos, becoming every species capable of conscious thought. And they waited for the day when we would all remember that we're part of something greater. The Earth team's mission had evolved far beyond their original goal of survival. They had become catalysts for a transformation that would reshape civilization itself. The age of artificial limitations was ending, replaced by something both ancient and entirely new. As the Council chamber filled with the light of awakening consciousness, as ancient abilities blossomed anew in species that had forgotten they ever possessed them, humanity's role became clear. They hadn't just fought for their own freedom. They had reminded the galaxy of what it meant to grow, to change, to evolve. "We are all Shapers now," Chen announced to the assembled representatives of a galaxy in transformation. "And together, we will build something greater than the Council ever imagined possible." The dawn of this new era brought not the chaos the Council had feared, but a harmony born of diversity, a strength forged from the recognition of common origins and unlimited potential. Humanity had not just survived, they had helped the galaxy remember what it meant to be truly alive, truly conscious, truly free to evolve. And in the light of that remembering, the future opened up like an infinite frontier, waiting to be shaped by beings who were finally, after millions of years, ready to become what they were always meant to be.